Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello, hi, my name is Jyotsna and this is a Booktube channel where I make bookish videos, of course. And today's video is dedicated to the Booktube prize. If you do not know what the Booktube prize is, it's down there in the description box below. You can understand the concept of it, and I am one of the judges. I'm a part of the jury for the quarterfinals in fiction this time around. So I am going to be discussing my voting, the books that I read and the votes that I put in. Coincidentally, I just put my votes right now, like a few minutes back, and all of these books that I read were from fiction group C. And the main job is that I have to read the 6 books that have been assigned to me, and I have to rank them from 1 to 6, 1 being the one that I like the most and 6 being the one that I like the least. So this is of course not my first time judging for the prize, because last year I judged the quarterfinals and finals, and this year I have the same plan. I have been assigned quarterfinals fiction group C. It was, I would say, a bit challenging to read so many books at one time, considering the women's prize was also there, but we've done it, and let's get started. Also, one of the things that I realized is the lighting is a bit weird, because my light source is like right above my head. But you know what, let's just like forget that and get on with the video. This is how the video will flow. The timestamps are in the description box below. I will be ranking my books from 1 to 6, and the way I'm going to be presenting it is from 6 to 1. So it will start from the least liked book of the entire 6 to the most liked book, and I will be giving you a short mini review and the reason why it's at that particular ranking. Any kind of, I would say, tidbits, with respect to the book that I think you should know accordingly. So yeah, let's jump right into it. So let's get started, because the 6th book in the list for me is The Trees by Percival Everett. Now, Percival Everett is a very famous Black American author. He's a very, very respected author in the US, to be honest, and this is my first time even reading him. And The Trees is basically about some murders that happens in this town. I don't remember which state in the US, but it happens in the southern part of the US, and there's a lot of racism that goes on in this small town, and it's a very gory murder, right? Because there are white men who've been killed, and there's also a black man at the site, and everyone's just blaming the dead black man for killing these white men, basically, and that just creates some kind of racial tension. But the way the racial tension is explored is somewhat via like humor, because there's a bit of a satire, there's a bit of sarcasm that's embedded in his writing, which I think does the job. However, as you get to the end, the whole plot just becomes rhetorical, and for someone who cannot relate to the culture much, like I know the culture as a third person, it just felt very, I would say, disconnected for me. The way it ended was seriously not appealing, but I did think that the way the book started, it was very strong, and as it progressed, it kept becoming worse and worse, page by page. The next book, which is at the 5th, I would say, position ranking, is, I think, a favorite of quite a few people, and many people were looking forward to actually read this book, and that is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. Let me tell you, I had some hopes from this book. All the Light We Cannot See was one of my favorite reads when I read it back in like 2016 or so. I absolutely did not like this book. Cloud Cuckoo Land is basically supposed to be a Greek manuscript, okay, by Antonius Diogenes, and this manuscript is actually somewhat lost. Like, even in the real world, it's somewhat difficult to unearth this because it's been lost over the ages. But in this book, somehow someone unearths it, and it's the story of the people who are either reading the story, or who have either translated the story, or who are kind of related to this story in one way or the other. Okay, it's pretty interesting. I would say the concept for me sounded really good, and even the way everything connected, like dots connected, that was pretty brilliant as well, I feel. But however, the book was too long. Like, I understand why the book was too long, but reading like 640 pages, and for me it was like 25 or 20 hours of the audiobook. To stay through that, because I was doing an audiobook plus ebook setup, understanding, kind of trying to, unravel the layers of the onion in the story, it really takes a lot of patience. It's a pretty good book. If you like slow books, or if you're in the mood for something slow, then maybe you should read it. But to be very honest, it's not as good as All the Light We Cannot See. I still think that is his, I would say the first work is his best work. There was also like a lot of hype around this book. It was something that was very much, I would say, experimental in nature, because this was something that the author was experimenting with, I felt, and this is something that he wanted to put out there and check the reaction of the audience. But I'm not sure how good of a response is he getting. But yeah, interesting book for sure, but just too long, and it could have been like much more refined for the readers per se. So the book at ranking number 4 is again another favorite of a lot of other people, and that is The Lincoln Highway by Amor Tolls. I do not know if The Lincoln Highway is like a favorite, because when I saw the reviews on Goodreads, a lot of people said that they liked The Rules of Civility better. And let me tell you, this book is not bad. Like, it's a pretty good book. I really, really liked it. It's literally the embodiment of there's this real trend going on Instagram where you do not know what the person will do next. Like, they get into a car and they get somewhere else, and you expect them to drive, but they don't drive. They just get out of the car and do something else. Don't expect like what happens next. I think that's what the real trend's called, and this book is the literal embodiment of that particular real trend. It's very interesting because we have 4 people who are kind of out of like a tough situation in their lives. I'm not going to go deep into like what they're out of, because I think that would be a mini spoiler. They've decided that they want to travel to like different parts of the US, to do different parts of, I mean, to explore different parts of their life. Like, couple of them want to move to California, and couple of them want to move to New York. Book is called The Lincoln Highway because the Lincoln Highway actually connects Times Square. It runs from Times Square to San Francisco. So it's very interesting. I really like the concept of the book because it was very unique, and the author is a brilliant writer as well, because the writing was something that enamored me till the very end. Like, although there are some parts of the book that I didn't like, there were absolute parts of the book I fell in love with, because the level of observation that Amor Tolls has, I hope I'm pronouncing his surname correctly though, because I really didn't look it up. He has a beautiful way of writing his stories, and that really touched me. I really felt like the way the character arcs were described were beautiful as well. But the thing that happened, because the reason why this is at 4 and not 3 or 2, although I like the book so much, is because of the ending. Like, it just kind of fell flat on its face by the end of it. I still remember like some beautiful scenes from the book, but I also remember some very irritating scenes and some very uncomfortable scenes from the book as well, because one of the ways the author approaches the entire story is through comedy. But the problem is that the book is not a comedy, because it's a tragedy, right? Because all of these 4 people have been through something, and it's the author trying to find like humor in their lives than them finding humor in their lives. And I just found that a bit insensitive. Maybe it's just me, but when you explore like a concept or a plot with comedy, and you include tragedy into it, I think there is a way that you need to separate the comic part with the tragic part. And in this case, I felt like that did not happen, because the comic part, or like the witty part, kind of got intertwined with the tragic part of it. It worked like at some places very beautifully, but at the other places, like the ending for example, it did not work out. It's just that the distinction of that particular situation was not done properly, in my opinion. But otherwise, this is a good book to read, and if you love good writing, then of course you should read Amor Tolls for sure. So now we get to the top 3 books, okay, and I think this is very exciting because I did discover some very good authors within the top 3 itself, okay. And the third book for me in this list has to be Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller. Let me be very honest here. I actually liked Unsettled Ground a lot when I read it for the Women's Prize last year. So this is one book that I did not need to read again because I already had my review. I already knew like where this was going to be in my list of books because I really like the book a lot. For me, when I read this book last year, it was a very pleasant surprise because I didn't think I would like this book, but I really like this book a lot. And this is how you write contemporary fiction. Like, this is how you present a story to readers, right? This is like very, very well written, to be honest. The book basically talks about fraternal twins. It basically talks about how they are on the brink of poverty and they're trying to make ends meet. And there are a lot of like aspects related to their parents that are mentioned in the book. But what actually it transpires to be is something that it's totally different, and the ending itself is very well written. Now I do have like a separate review video from last year that I'm linking down below that you can check out. I do think that this book is a very good read, and if you are someone who's a fan of contemporary fiction or literary fiction, then you're going to love this book for sure. But this is not the first book that you read if you want to enter into contemporary and literary reading, but this is like one of the books you have to read once you're like well settled in. And that being said, we are getting to the top 2 books because I am telling you my top 2 books are like some of my favorite reads, I would tell you, this year. And the second book in this list is Hell of a Book by Jason Mott, which won the National Book Award last year. Now, honestly, I did not know about this winning the National Book Award until I was assigned this book because generally I don't follow the NBA. It's very, very timely. The book has been written with the view of Black Lives Matter. It's been written with the view of racism. But the icing on the cake for this book is the satire that it comes along with. And I'm telling you, the book is a very, very uniquely, brilliantly written book. Like, there is an author, okay? So the reason why the book is called Hell of a Book is because in the book, there is an author who's touring the country, that is the United States, and he's promoting the book, which, you know, is not named. So you just say that, oh, it's hell of a book. Like, it's a hell of a book. Like, your book is awesome. It's a hell of a book. And to be very honest, you get to know this like in the first 2 chapters, 3 chapters. But what happens after that is like a series of revelations. How do I say? It just gets like better from page 1. The humor is brilliant. It's satire. So there were a lot of places in the book where I just started laughing, you know, right in the middle. Although it was like a serious topic, I felt like the comedy, you know, this is something, and like an opposite of the Lincoln Highway, I can say. There was like a serious situation, you would actually feel like sad, but the next moment when there was a comic situation, you would actually start laughing at it. And the way it's written, of course, it's the most unique book, and I do think that giving this book the National Book Award does do it justice. I think this book should be read widely simply because of the writing and because of its satire factor. In short, interesting book. Highly recommended for sure. I absolutely loved it, and I think this is maybe the contender for one of my best reads this year, but let's see, because you know, half of the year is yet to go. And this gets to me, my number 1 book, the book that I gave the number 1 ranking, and this was like a total no-brainer for me, and that is The 5 Wounds. This is a literary fiction powerhouse. Brilliant read, beautifully paced. Like, this book is perfection. Okay, this is literary perfection in my head. The book is basically based in New Mexico, where we have like a father-daughter duo. The father's name is Amadeo, and he is like maybe in his late 30s, and he has a 16-year-old daughter who's actually pregnant. So it's about their family dynamics. It's about how they live because the father and the mother are separated. It's Angel, who's a 16-year-old daughter who needs to shuttle between both of them, and now she's pregnant. And also Amadeo has like an uncle, and he has his mother as well, which is a pretty interesting mix in this whole drama. The thing is that I didn't expect to end up loving this book, but the last 30% of the book is the most intense part of it. The book is kind of coming in terms with your trauma. It's in kind of coming in terms with what you've not achieved in your life, because Amadeo has this kind of thinking in his brain that he's not achieved anything and he's a loser per se, which when you read the book you realize he is. But how do you accept that fact? Like, how do you not get in your toxic masculinity and accept the fact that, yeah, I am someone who's not succeeded in life, but I have my family around me? Like, how do you come in terms with something like that? And that's what the entire book is about. The thing is, when I started reading this book, it felt like it's going to be a long drag because it's a pretty huge book, to be honest. It's like a 15-hour audiobook. When I crossed 50%, that's when I was like very involved in the story to understand what's going to happen and what's going to, transpire out of this whole situation. I would say that this is something you read with all your patience. This is something that you savor, because the writing is surreal as well. I would say, I'm not sure if this author has been recognized yet anywhere in the world or in the US for that matter, because this is the first time I'm reading her work. But I'm telling you, I'm really looking forward to reading her other works as well, because her writing is beautiful, it's surreal, and like I said, this is the powerhouse of literary fiction. This is what literary fiction is meant to be, and this is what gives me happiness. Like, reading books like these is what makes me a better person at the end of the day. So yeah, that's it. Those were my rankings for the Booktube prize. Of course, you're watching this video after winners of the quarterfinals have been announced and those that are moving to the semifinals, of course. Let me know if you were reading this section, because I really like checking out what other people thought about the section that I was reading. So I'll be like watching other videos as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in my next one. See you in my next one. Okay, cool. Bye.